episode 8 with David Foster. David shared how he and his wife, Catherine McPhee, gave 12 separate performances of songs for free to help caregivers and people. The majority of the songs David wrote or produced, but one was separate, Mariah Carey's Hero song. They performed that song as well. And like the song, I believe we are all our own heroes. We all have a hero story in us, and the world is full of all kinds of heroes too, that we may know personally or hear about. I share that introduction because our guest today is one of those healthcare workers that stood on the front line helping. She is a hero. Samina Khan took her childhood cancer experience and became a physician assistant. She has saved lives and has taken an oath to serve. I've known Samina for over 25 years. She's amazing, talented, funny, special, determined, wise, confident, and capable. If you're joining us to be inspired, entertained, informed, to feel, be grateful, to learn, laugh, Samina and our host today, myself, Andrea Yeager, Adriana Solarova, and Karen Vasquez, are up for delivering. I proudly, I've known you so long, Samina, this is so special. Anyway, I proudly and with great excitement introduce Samina Khan, a frontline hero and Little Star Foundation alumni. Welcome, Samina.
Oh, geez, thank you. And then you had to pull out the hero song.
For audiences watching on our YouTube channel, we didn't ask Samina to wear her medical scrubs for this episode. She is heading to work immediately following. A theme of this episode will be friendship and confidence. Let's start with positive affirmations. Samina, they are important for you. Which ones are your favorites and seem to succeed best for you?
Well, it's funny that you mentioned positive affirmations. I have kind of regimented myself for in the morning. I really kind of say 3 things that I'm grateful for. And then every night at bedtime, I'm really, really good about writing them down in my iNotes so that after a long day, regardless of what has happened, you can reflect on the good. I would say the biggest affirmation for me is that I am powerful and energetic. And I like to take that in stride. Over the years, my personality has been very strong, and others have used the word intense, and I've never really enjoyed the acronym intense. So I had a good friend that said, Samina, I think you should look up some synonyms for the word intense. And I found powerful and energetic. And I would say those are my 2 most, the words I use the most to kind of describe who I am and remind myself first thing in the morning. I'm powerful and energetic, and I'm a woman of faith, and I'm grateful that God has kept me on this beautiful earth, and I practice gratitude first thing in the morning with a little prayer. So that's how
beautiful.
I start my day. That's how I start my day, and that's kind of the affirmation that I live by first thing in the morning.
And then you just mentioned that you do some at the end of the day too. Are those different?
So at the end of the day, I think it's, especially in healthcare, it's really, I wake up early in the morning, and I'm very big about, I tell everyone this, in order for you to pour into anyone, regardless of what you do in life, we are humans who are pouring into other people all day. It's not me. And it's very important to start your day in a way that you can have time for yourself, because if you can't pour into yourself first, how are you supposed to pour into others all day? And throughout the day, especially when I'm in a world where I'm seeing probably 25, 30 patients in a shift, and you're drained of your energy, your empathy bucket is empty. It's pretty empty. And it takes a lot just to take 5 big box breaths and really reflect on how you went through your day, what you could have done better, and writing those things down. And every night's different for me.
That's awesome. Now, during those tougher healthcare periods, we were doing those nightly check-ins, and the caregivers, they were having really tough times emotionally and physically. And so you said, and I still have this text, you said, I aspire every day with everyone I meet. I think I will inspire or impact them in some way, and it has to be of light. Sunshine in a bottle, I think we all have in abundance. You certainly have that. Let's each share how we replenish that. So Samina, even in those darkest times, like the world was shut down, everybody was hurting, healthcare workers were having really hard times. You virtually had to check in with people at night to make sure you were still alive. and to go into the next day. And yet you're still like, I'm going to make a difference. I'm full of light. I'm so excited to meet the person the next day that I can help. That's tough. That was a really, and not as if it's easier now, but it's a different period now. But how do you replenish that sunshine?
I mean, you were there at the beginning. It was, well, first of all, I had asked. I was in primary care, and then they had suggested that I do virtual medicine. Well, if anyone knows me, I am I am such an extrovert. To put me in front of a screen all day, I go crazy. I need face-to-face contact. I don't care if that's me gowned up or in a mask, but if I can even, there's power in the way you look at someone. There's power behind your eyes and in your soul, and people can see that. And I found that most interesting during the shutdown when I would take care of little babies and we would be masked up. You would look at that sweet little baby in their eyes and they would light up. And we can read people just based on what you see in somebody's eyes. And I was able to do that all masked up. And that's why I had said, I can do this. I always joke that, I don't have any kids. I'm so single. I don't even have a plant that I can take care of. So I got this. Like, I'll be fine. My family's not here. I'll put me out there. I'm okay. And I can do this. And going out there was taxing in ways that we hadn't seen yet. And it was neat to be able to watch the medicine, but also scary to tell patients or family members that they couldn't see their significant other, their son, their daughter, their husbands, their wives. And that added up after a while to see other people break down and you look at them with your eyes that are supposed to be empathetic without showing that you're sad for them, but still show that there's hope. And over that course of time, you would check in with me and I'd say, "Oh my gosh, it was taxing." However, I was able to at least provide some sort of light just by body language, by being able to sit and talk across from the room. Although you didn't get to be that close to the patient, there's power in being able to sit and look at someone in their eyes and allow them to feel the depth of your soul and allow yourself to actually feel someone's energy.
And then you would still get up and you're so great at sports. I remember this from a kid, like all the activities and games and things, you just like always be like succeeding in every single one, even if you've never done it before. You were like an expert after like a few minutes. And so, how important was like nourishing your mind and your body? Like when you're going through things, you talked about that a little bit at the beginning, the importance of giving yourself time first, but you're still very active in sports, very active in nourishing your soul, but also your physical body as well.
Yes. So I'm very blessed to live in the state of Colorado. And during that shutdown, it was perfect timing in terms of March, April, spring. Although it felt like we were still in the dead of winter and there was no light given the circumstances, I got to get outside. I got to appreciate the trees, starting to bloom, still hearing the birds chirping first thing in the morning, and being able to get outside and be active. And my family and I are very fit, and we do walking lunges. And so we do lunges where we lunge and listen to a podcast. And I do like a quarter mile or a half mile. And I would plug into that first thing in the morning. That would be my activity. And then we would send each other workouts, and I'd have a set of weights and a jump rope. And I'd just walk around the corner. There's a little park by my house. And I'd be out there before the sun was rising with my yoga mat and being outside in the fresh air and still hearing the birds chirp. It sounds so cheesy, but it was just something that was so beautiful to be able to have that time. Before, I would joke that we were trapped in a lead box all day. Like you're literally stuck in this box where you're just in this whole world. And then you would leave work and the world outside of you was still shut down. It was so quiet. So it just felt so surreal and felt like we were in a weird, like I was in the Matrix, like some sort of weird sci-fi movie that never ended, that was never going to end. But being able to get outside first thing in the morning was the best. And then getting outside after work was also really, really nice, just to be able to go out for a walk.
Yeah, those are really important things. Adriana, how do you bring in sunshine for you when you need like a burst of it? Other than,
Um,
I mean, you do love outside nature, so that's kind of literal, but just in general too.
Yes, so very hi Samina, by the way. This is so
Hi,
amazing to meet you. I've heard
eh,
so many wonderful things, and wow, it's really wonderful to be on the podcast with you. Thank you for being with us.
I'm
Truly an
equally as
honor.
honored. I'm equally as honored. Thank you so much for having me.
So to Samina's, it's similar to mine, and spending time in the nature and being around living beings other than humans, in a sense, to replenish energy. And like Samina said, that what we do at the foundation, it is challenging, and that helps me to get outside and just observe and include all the senses, and look and smell and touch and hug the tree, in a sense, and whatever whatever brings peace, and so we can get on and do the same again the next day and next day, but it with quality. It's important.
That's
It
a
really
very
is.
good point.
And I would say plugging into your resources. I'm the eldest of, there's six of us. We call ourselves half a dozen cons. And we being able to call and just talk, and we're so fortunate to live in this advanced world of technology. The face, like FaceTime, be able to look at someone's face, although you can't give them a hug. There's just so much satisfaction in being able to look at someone or see their smile, or see kind of, like, for instance, I would FaceTime my mom and I would go like see her back at home in Wyoming and where I grew up, and being able to see that in the background was something that was just home and safe. And I was so good about still being able to plug in. And that goes along with today. After COVID, we have so many people who are suffering from anxiety, from depression. And I don't know if it's just kind of coming to a head, or people are feeling comfortable talking about it, or if facing such a traumatic event in our lives at a particular time has made us all anxious and concerned and more worried, and we're not really living in the moment as much. And it reminded me that we should all plug into the people that love us, just to say hello. I mean, a text, even texting, and plugging into the people that you love, and the people that make you smile, and the people that are growing with you and climbing to the top of that mountain with you. That is so important for your health and your mental health, because the people that love you are still going to love you when you say, "Hey, I feel down today," or "I feel like the world is just crumbling and I don't know why this is happening." And so I did do a lot of that as well.
Yeah. You two have similar backgrounds with being around mountains and nature and embracing that. And so Karen, where did you find your sunshine to pick you up? She has sunshine almost in her home there with the beautiful tree. So she loves nature as well. So this is Karen, and you two have not, I don't think you've been in the same sessions together, but you're both foundation alumni. So you have that in common, which is really exciting. So Karen, what do you feel about how you replenish your sunshine?
Hi, Samina. It's a pleasure meeting you and knowing you're a Little Star Foundation alumni as well. Well, actually, I'm not an outdoorsy person. I'm more like a homebody. So, my dogs are pretty much what keeps me going at times.
Dogs are the best. Animals are the best.
Yeah, no, they're my therapy, honestly. And watching K dramas too.
Oh, that's great.
That's everyone has their own, which helps them out, which that's perfect. Now here's one that Samina will relate to well. You have a very high standard for yourself, and you've kept very high standards throughout your life. And that includes saying no. It includes never settling, like knowing you deserve the highest and best. So you thrive in those situations. And so each person has a balance of that, like how far they know they can go on it doesn't exist to be a perfectionist, but you can do your best and extraordinary work. And so you have a certain amount of confidence that propels you to be able to be comfortable to say no, or to say, well, no, I'm not going to settle for that. I can do better than that. Where does that confidence come from, and how do you keep it in check? Like, how do you keep training it so it stays at a really good level for you?
I mean, That's a great question in terms of, I even wonder where my confidence comes from. I mean, well, my parents did a great job instilling the power of knowing your own worth and your value. However, facing a childhood illness where you're bald and chubby from steroids, and then you lose the weight from the steroids, and then you put it back on, and then you get all kinds of you're just full of scars, and there just comes a breaking point where you're just, and I was facing that as a teenager. I was 15, 16 years old, the time where you're already an awkward teenager, and then you're even more awkward because you don't, it's just so hard for you to fit in. And that was a really challenging time for me. And I would have to say that it made me grow up really quickly. And that's why I kind of say that I'm an old spirit with a young soul, because I faced that childhood illness where you had to grow up fast. I had to face possible death, which is scary to say, but my own mortality. And that allows you to either go two directions. You can go in a really dark place, or you can decide, hey, you know what? I'm going to make the best of this. And even when I was getting chemo, I would walk around with my IV pole. I refused to sit down. I asked the nurses and the receptionist if I could do paperwork, if I could put stickers on things. And it was just who I was. I was still trying to play basketball, and I was throwing up. I mean, I shouldn't have been doing it, but I had said to myself, I will not let this beat me. And I feel like it was something, truthfully, that was just inside of me. And it allowed me to continue to face adversity and made me who I am. And being the girl that just didn't look normal growing up because of losing your hair, or facing that, the idea of looking ill, I decided to say, you know what, I am beautiful, and I am going to be okay. And this is going to get me through so much. And it's allowed me to be secure with who I am. But I have my own insecurities. And that's when I try to face what I've been through to remind myself that you got this. You beat cancer, you can do anything. That's kind of my mindset on a lot of things.
And I saw that even when you were younger, you had that, you already had that instilled. I don't know if it was something, it seems like you were born with an innate ability to be confident, and you've just given it experience and training throughout your life with all these things that happen along the way. You just kept going forward with a positive way too. Do you feel like there's something that helps you do that? Or, I mean, is it, like you said, you're a confident woman, you have a lot of these incredible qualities, and that can be off-putting for some. Like I've never ever viewed you as intense. I've always viewed you as those remarkable things I said about you from the beginning, even when you were a little kid. I mean, we get on the phone now, we would find ways to laugh, and just you have this amazingness about you, and it exudes. So it seems like you being in healthcare, people almost feel a healing infusion just by being in the room with you. Do patients tell you those kind of things? They must.
They do. I mean, that's why I wear bright scrubs, guys. I'm all about, if I'm going to wear pajamas to work, they need to look fabulous. I need to have a great tennis shoe. And I at least need to have, something where I can add some pizzazz. And I would say even wearing bright scrubs brings people in to, they're like, oh my gosh, those are so fun. And now just smiling, even though in the first couple of years where we were masked up, and now we're mask optional. I mean, I'm still wearing it when I'm going into respiratory rooms. I've learned my lesson there, but there's just a power in saying, I really believe in investing in the beginning. And that goes with any conversation, whether you're meeting someone for the first time, whether you're at the grocery store, whether you're at a restaurant and you are being served by someone. There's power in the pause with the introduction, allowing someone to introduce themselves, pausing and kind of thinking about how you want to react to the introduction, and investing in that first 20 to 30 seconds with any interaction. And I like to carry that on throughout my entire life, whether it's with my patients or whether it's with my friends or whether I'm meeting someone, because those first 20 to 30 seconds of someone's first interaction, you don't know what that means to someone. You don't know what they're going through. I'm very keen on no judgment whatsoever. It's important for me to do that for people, because that could be the last time that you see that person, even at the grocery store, and you don't know what they're feeling, you don't know what they're going through, and you might be that light for someone that you never knew they needed.
Absolutely. Absolutely. For Karen and Adriana, what kind of things do you feel like you have in confidence, or would you like to grow in confidence? Either one. Adriana, you first.
It's slightly different for me than what Samina shared. Just I think because of the background that I come from, playing competitive sports at such a young age, I was exposed to a lot of scrutiny and criticism, and you gotta get better. This is not good enough. So for me, confidence was at a very low level as a teenager growing up. So I had to rebuild that myself later in life, when I realized your self conversation, your self talk needs to get better in order for your life to improve. And so when I met Andrea, she played an incredible role in this. She was my role model, and she showed me what that looks like, what that's positive feedback, and what when somebody appreciates you for what you do, they show you how you can grow your gifts, your talents that you were given by the greater power. And that was the key for me when I saw her with kids and with kids with cancer and families. I remember that vividly. She showed me something I've never seen before. And so from then on, a lot of things have changed. So no, it wasn't like that for me. But because I was very fortunate to meet her and then later on some other people that showed me this is what you can do, I grew my own confidence, and now it's completely different.
Interesting. This is exciting. I love hearing that story, because so often, and this is so important, so many kids that are growing up in competitive sports and go to the pro level, and it might be someone else's dreams, could be their parents' dreams, and you're constantly, our era was constantly criticized. So you're only analyzed for your mistakes. You're never really supported in your growth, in whether it's like you feel like you're a good person. Well, that doesn't, in our era, it didn't matter in sports. It's like, are you a good tennis player? Not if you're a good person. That's the focus. So I hadn't heard that story, and it's really important, because kids out there, when they hear one thing, social media is so hard now. If you hear one thing that's a negative, it can really catapult you to a tough place. But there's so many people out there that are different from that will love you for you being exactly as you are, and to let you grow through that way. And that's, I think, kind of been the model of the foundation is, let's live full. We're all here together. Let's have fun. We might as well, do this together. And there's what you said, Samina, too, no judgment. It's like, and so Karen, when you're sharing on yours with confidence, whether something that you learned or something that you still want to learn, what would your input be on that?
Oh, it's still a work in progress. I'm a very shy person, so the confidence part, it hasn't been easy with me. And I'm also the type of person that cares more about what others than myself, kind of, sort of. So my brother was the one that would kind of push me towards, like, Karen, you have to do this. Karen, like, you have to look out for yourself. Karen, like, he would always give me that push to be confident in myself. And, like, if you want to do it, do it. Like, don't care what other people think. It's your life. It's like, so he was the one that kind of was helping me build that confidence in me. So now I'm gonna still rebuild it because I don't have him anymore. So
Oh,
so in spirit, he's cheering you on. I will say this, Samina, we just came together for this podcast to help people, to just kind of give a hug, a happiness hug, or sunshine, inspiration. So the ability, Karen, that you're doing on this, because I've known you as being shy, the fact that she comes on, she's like our main host. So she comes on and interviews all these different people from all walks of life, and she's just ready to go every time and has this warmth about her. And so I will say, your confidence has been incredible on this, Karen, and we all are learning from you. So now we're going to go to the laughter part of the conversation. So Samina, you and I have had laughter for decades. I mean, we've known each other for over 25 years now. What's one of your favorite stories that we've had together, and then also you've had somewhere else? That, because as we know, laughter is good medicine. And so if anyone's listening and they're like, this is kind of cool, I could take in some laughter, because that is such an important thing. When you think about it, there's been a study, and children that laugh, they laugh so much more than adults. And if you think about your day or your week and your month, if you haven't had things to laugh about, then let's bring some to you, because that can help health-wise, it can help mental health-wise, it can help physically, and you can enjoy life more. So Samina, you're here for some good laughter stories that you just, every time you think about, you just laugh really hard.
Okay, well, first of all, I used to think that I was a choreographer for dance moves with Andrea and the Little Star Foundation whenever we have our camp. And I don't know, maybe there was like an inner Paula Abdul inside of me that I just felt like, oh yeah, I could totally do this. I am in charge of the talent show. I got this, Andrea. And Men in Black. So Men in Black was big. I don't even remember what year that was, but we were going to do a whole dance, the Men in Black dance. And I had it all down to the wardrobe. And not only was I the choreographer, I thought that I understood everything about production and wardrobe. So that started at a young age. So I had said, Andrea, we need these sunglasses. I'd like to do black suits. I would like to set up some time to practice and do dance moves. And now that I look back at it, I'm like, oh my gosh, what was I thinking? Those moves are like terrible. But it brought so much joy to like get everyone together and do what I thought were the best dance moves ever. Not so much. And I would continue to do that. But I'm still kind of a cheese ball who will dance, and think that I'm the best dancer in the room and not care at all. I'm just out there with the moves, and I think that I've got it going on. And I don't know what that is about me, but I'm still like, I don't care. I'm going to dance and have a good time and just live. Music is such good therapy. And I would say that was probably the funnest times with you, Andrea, and all of the campers, was all of our talent shows.
Oh, those were so funny. I think that particular one, because you were at several sessions, I think that was 2000. So like 22 years ago. And she totally was like, okay, we got to do that. No, she didn't realize I'm like the worst dancer on the planet. So she didn't even know what she was working with. And so we went, and, we're on a budget. We can't just go get these uniforms. No one was allowed to go buy things for it. So we went to a beautician place, because when you get your hair cut and your hair, like if people get their hair dyed, they have to have these special drapes or whatever they are, and they were black. So we went to a hair place and said, can we please borrow 5 of your outfits? And we took them and used those. And it was so much fun. And it's like you said, if you don't everyone, if in that situation, I've been dancing in those talent shows for decades now, and each one has such a special joy to it. And so even if you don't have someone else to dance with or sing with or laugh with, there's ways to find that. Like you said, you can, find someone that maybe is like-minded, or just put on a song and just go for it, and never feel embarrassed, because that's your joy of movement. And so those things. But I will also say, when we went on the tennis court too, I thought for sure I'd have to teach you a few things, and you started passing people right away. You were like ready for Wimbledon. Like you were serious, and like, okay, so how do I step into it? Like she was going to go into the profession.
Oh,
but and then the other time was when we were whitewater rafting, and you had to have your helmet on, and we had these outfits, and it was so cute, because the little kids were having a hard time, like, they were scared. They were really scared. And you were their age, but because you were so much taller, everyone thought you were so much older. So all the little kids would come over to you and want to be in your raft, and you were just as like scared as them, but you just gave this confidence and said, yeah, let's do this. And it was really
this is perfect, because I would be one of those scaredy cats there, and even with dancing, you will not see me on the dance floor. But if I saw someone like Samina or you, Andrea, I'd be like, oh my gosh, they're having a blast. And I would come out. So people like you are so, so amazing and so important. And the fact that yeah, you don't know what you're doing, but here we are on the podcast. I have no idea what I'm doing, but it's going to help others. So I will joyfully join and join their party, even though I'm terrible at it. So maybe I'll
Well,
get
yeah.
better.
You will. I mean, it's like as an adult, I'm learning to play golf. I'm playing. I'm terrible, but like if I whiff the ball, I will literally start cracking up at the driving range, and people are looking, and I don't care. I'm like, that's great. I whiffed. I don't know what you want me to do. Like, I'm
Yeah.
terrible. It's happening. What do you want me to do? But there's just beauty. Like it goes back to your confidence. You have to fail over and over and over again to actually obtain the sense of understanding, okay, I can do this. I failed at this. And then, oh, I took one step ahead. I literally laugh at things that I do all the time. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
totally true. You're like that when on calls and something will happen in your day or in the world, and it's never in a way, because there's two different kinds of laughter. I think there's goodwill laughter, and there's laughter that can be harmful. Like if you're making fun of, people can laugh and make fun of someone, and you never have ever been that way, and it's always been a joyful one. And I think that's a special thing. I know in Adriana, in my world, we weren't allowed to do certain things. You weren't allowed to express joy of anything else other than tennis, because people were like, no, don't do that, focus on this. And that seems so strange to me all the time. And when I again think about you, Karen, coming in this, and I was very clear, I don't know anything about this industry. I'm still doing the Little Star Foundation work. That's already 24/7, but I think the world could benefit from sharing, great stories and inspiring stories. And you were, still in the grieving process of having lost your brother. And you're like, I think he would want me to do this. And, half the time I don't even know if I'm pressing the right button.
My question, one of them was going to be about, you and Andrea were on the same dance team for the talent show during one of your many camp sessions. That must have been interesting and fun. So you did share that it was incredible, and you shared one of your stories. So, and another one would be, what would you like to say to families listening or watching that just received the news their child has cancer? What would you like to say to those families?
I mean, I reflect back on the time. I would say that I have been in the situation, and I'm actually close friends with my oncologist. He's become a part of my family. I call him my Denver dad. And I chat with him often, where I'm in the front line, and I have actually had to tell people that they have cancer. And it is the most gut-wrenching conversation to have. And then I also remind myself before I go into that room that, Samina, you've faced this. You can tell them about your story. I'm very selective about who I tell when I see someone who I'm diagnosing with cancer. However, and back to your question, I'm a big believer in the power of pause. So first I would let the parent, the child, whoever was diagnosed, be able to speak and talk and just listen. And after I would let them speak from their heart, there's just something about, again, like looking at them or in your voice or in your tone, and letting them know that it really is going to be okay. It seems like it's the most terrifying thing, and it is. And your world has just changed. And you may think that it has changed for the worse. However, for me, my diagnosis, I'm very fortunate. I survived. I'm a survivor. And I am a big believer in optimism. I believe that the power of positivity, the power of manifestation, and the power of your thoughts will take you anywhere you want to go. And I tell that to a lot of people, but most in particular, I would tell that to those parents. If you manifest good health for your child, if you manifest an environment that allows them to be happy and to feel like they're not sick, there's also something about not letting the kid feel like they're this person who is special because they're sick. No, they're special because they already are special. They are, to me, it's like you're God's child, and that already makes you special. And you shower them with love, and you laugh a little bit more, and you have a little more fun. And this is just a reminder that you get to spend some quality time together in a circumstance that is really, really hard. And it's going to be scary. You're going to have good days. You're going to have bad days. You're going to have days where you feel like the world is just on top of you. But you have that sweet child that you get to look at, and you get to be with, and you get to hold, and you love on them as much as you feel like you need to. And the other thing is everyone's journey is different. You don't know, like, what the diagnosis, depending on if it's leukemia, if it's a solid tumor, everyone's prognosis is different. And so I always tell parents, and I tell people that I even take care of, that it's so important to plug in. Like, here in Colorado, we have the Children's Hospital of Colorado, which is an amazing hospital. And they have so many resources for their families and for their kids. And I was fortunate enough that I got plugged into Little Star Foundation. And it was one of the best things that could have happened to me. And I was scared. I didn't want to go. I didn't want to be with a bunch of kids who also were sick. That was not something I was really interested in at first. I was scared. But it was so fun to be able to be with people who were going through something similar. And I would tell parents, and I'll tell anyone who has a terminal illness, it sounds like you're just kind of feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm going to go be with a bunch of people who have the same thing as me. I don't want to do that. And it's okay to say you don't want to do that, but it's also important to reflect on how good that would be for your soul. And being with people who are going through what you've gone through or you are going through, there's just power in numbers, and there's power in teamwork, and there's power in being able to face something so terrifying with an army behind you.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. That's beautiful. Yeah.
Thank you.
And it's interesting because we used to have this funny story how when the kids would come, a lot of the kids maybe have never been on a plane, have never gone, like you said, they think it's just, oh, everyone's gonna be sad or having a hard time. And so some of the kids would be crying. The first day they arrived, they'd be crying, they'd be homesick, and they'd be on the phones trying to get a hold of their parents. And then we were the kind of program where they'd be doing the same at the last day, because now they didn't want to leave and now they wanted to stay. It was so much fun. And parents would be calling me all week and going, I heard from my child the first day, but I haven't heard from it. I go, well, they're just having fun, and they're over their homesick. And they're like, okay. And so there's tears at the beginning and tears at the end, but there were more tears of joy of, I have a new family now. I've created this friendship and created a bond that. And for some of the kids, it was just that session. For some of the kids, it was the whole year or a whole decade or their whole lifetime. We always let that be up to the child, because some of them, have obviously different circumstances. So it's a really cool thing, because usually the first few days of programs, it's always like, I can't do that, I have cancer, or I can't do that because I have one leg, or I can't do that because, I just have been told I can't do anything. And we always said, well, we're all doing this together. Let's try. And they'd all of a sudden they realize they can still have a childhood. They still can laugh. They can still play and have fun. And so it's a really cool answer. So Karen, what's your question?
Actually, you only have two. So Samina, was your experience with cancer what led you to become or work in the medical field?
I remember when I was 2 years old, my uncle was an amputee, did not have an arm. And for some reason, my entire childhood, I thought that I could fix his arm. I don't know. The guy didn't have an arm. And I, for some reason, thought that I could make it work. Like put it back together and figure out a way. And I was a child. I was naive. I clearly did not know about prosthetics, what have you at that point. But I was thinking, okay, there's something I can do. Although he was not as fortunate as my family was, I would want to fix him. And I would go back and I would be able to give, like, my mom and dad would teach me, okay, well, that person has some back pain. Ibuprofen was like the greatest medication ever for an adult with some low back pain. And they thought I was this child that was able to cure them. And I just fed on that. And growing up and being the eldest of all my siblings, I loved And I still love taking care of people. I just love being able to be someone who's able to provide a sense of a healing hand. And when I was diagnosed with lymphoma, well, first of all, I mean, we didn't have the internet then. That dates me, even though I like feel like I'm 41 and beyond fabulous. I remind myself that I'm really getting old. And we had for some reason, my parents had a medical encyclopedia. Don't know why. But I got done with basketball practice and I had this huge lump on my neck. And I remember like I was playing and they kept trying to tell me I had sports induced asthma. And at that time, I looked up everything in the encyclopedia. I went to the library. I was coming up with my own differential diagnosis of what I thought was wrong with me. That's serious nerd alert right there. And my parents were like, no, that's just a lymph node from your strep throat. The fact that my parents even knew that, I'm like, now that I look back at it, I'm like, what? How did they know that stuff? I went to the doctor and I told the doctor I had cancer. And this is something that I pride myself in medicine, because medicine is gray and nothing is 100%. And it's very important that when one practices medicine, it's good to be confident, but it's also good to not act like you know everything, because it could shatter someone's heart. And the doc had told me that they were 99% sure I did not have cancer. And then the lump at lunch break was like a spectacle. People would come like look at it in the cafeteria. Like I was my own like nature and science museum, just sitting there in the cafeteria. And no, it was just lymphoma that was just growing, just growing in my chest. And finally, my parents had asked that something get done, and we got some chest films. I was sent to the Children's Hospital in Colorado, drove 6 hours, and I started keeping track of my like white blood cell count. And I thought I wanted to go into pediatric hematology oncology. Long story short, and then I thought I wanted to be a doctor. I became a PA, and I am grateful for my oncologist who helped guide me along the way. I worked in his lab, and I realized that hemonc is way too close to home. Even to this day, when I take care of someone, or if I see someone with like a diagnosis of metastasis and I have to go in there and tell them, I am grateful for the team that does what they do, because I could not. However, I'm grateful for the gift of my energy and allows me to run around and do what I do in our urgent cares, because it's fun for me. So I knew that I wanted to practice medicine because of everything that I went through. It was actually the catalyst, and it allowed me to know that I did not want to do hematology oncology, and I could at least use my gift in other ways.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, awesome. Thanks for sharing. And now,
Yeah.
with everything you know now, you're going through cancer and, going through med school, what would you tell your younger self?
I love that. It's so funny because recently I've been trying to remind myself of what my younger self would think. And even when we get scared, right, you think about your inner child, like, what would the inner kid in me do? And I'm trying not to cry, but I would really be proud of my younger self. And sometimes when I'm hard on myself, because I feel like I'm not doing enough, or I don't know, I look at I'm a perfectionist, and I know perfection does not exist, but I and that's why I resonate with Andrea, because she goes out of her way to pour into other people and is a selfless human, and she is rewarded in other ways. And I would tell that little girl that you have such a great life ahead of you, and you are going to do great things, and you're going to be an amazing person, no matter what that looks like. And I don't know why I'm bringing this up right now. I was not fortunate to have kids. I was not, like, chemo really did a lot for me. And I was having a hard time facing the idea that I felt like I was less of a woman because I can't have a baby. And now God has showed me that there are other gifts that you have. And I would tell that little girl that it's okay if you don't have babies. It's okay if you're not a mom, because you get to be a mom in so many other ways. And being a mom does not mean that you have to physically bear a child. You can give light to people and give people an idea of support and help others grow and allow kids to see who you are and be a mentor in so many different ways. Sorry, I didn't mean to have the waterworks there.
Oh,
Wow,
never
that's-
apologize.
That's
Yeah,
so
never-
beautiful. Oh my goodness. I'm
It's
kind
so-
of going through not nearly similar, but I'm getting older, no children, single, and because I was so busy all my life trying to make sure that I can take care of myself, and this part fell behind, and I realized, gosh, I really would like to be, you know, what it would be like a mother, and I, you know, it just feels like the train has left, and so in some sense, but it's quite different for your reasons. So I'm so glad you shared it. So glad. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and
Absolutely.
it hasn't left for, and I think that's something, and that's probably maybe another podcast, Andrea. I think that's something for women, not only in a position of power, but a woman who decides to explore who they are, to love who they are. If things don't work out like they're supposed to, like, I love that I get to take care of pediatric patients. That is my way. And my friends' kids, and now I'm an aunt, I never thought that that was going to be enough for me. But recently, after just doing a lot of reflection, I'm finally starting to just be okay with, I love that my friends' kids light up when I walk in because I'm the fun, cool friend who will go play sports with them. They still love my sense of style. They love my dating advice. Like, I like that because I'm starting to live in that peace a little bit. And I'm also okay with when I get sad about hearing someone's having a baby or going to baby showers or those things. And I have my moment before I go. And we have to remind ourselves of all the other great qualities that we have and all the other great pieces. Like, look at all that you've done with your life. And it's like going back to your inner child, like Karen was saying, and telling that inner child, guess what? You are, you know, you're fierce and you've got this.
That's amazing. Yes,
that is,
absolutely.
yeah.
Beautiful.
So, Samina, before you go to work, you know, we started with that whole hero concept. I'm very careful where I put the word hero because as we know, with people that are on front lines and people that are teachers, people that are, you know, day in and day out are serving in certain ways, they rarely get the accolades, they rarely get the applause. And so that's why it was so important to bring that up, because you've been that in a way since you've been a little kid. You know, you always wanted to jump up and help people and save people, and you're doing it now. And so with you and Karen being on here, I do also want to thank a few people, because you know, this might have been something that God called me to do in my life. But it's like you said too, Samina, it's to have people around you, you know, it's been a team. It's been a team of people that have believed along the way. And you two both know, I mean, the people that have been the vice president and people that have been involved, they've been here for the entire 38 years. You know, this is like an everyday job. So to be friends with Andrea is not necessarily the easiest thing to be on the planet, because it's like, oh no, here she goes. There's no days off. There's no holidays off, things like that. But I do want to thank the people because that have supported and made it possible for us to be at 38 years, because and this is the whole reason for the podcast is here's these stories. I mean, to look at you, Samina, and Karen, in the ways that you had to grow up, a childhood that was virtually taken away and, you know, put in with cancer, childhood cancer, and the ways you've represented. And so strangers came along and helped and donated and said, okay, we'll help fund these programs, or we'll help, you know, give the Spirit Awards, or to have something that is a college scholarship program. So I know both of you have gotten those from the foundation, and it's a family. It's a Little Star Foundation family. And I'm so excited because people will be watching. Some people from those from that family will be watching and going, oh my gosh, I knew Samina. Andrew would send me pictures of her when she was little, and same with Karen. And they're going to be so proud. They're going to be watching this going, oh my gosh, you know, I didn't really know what Andrea was doing, but she called me up and wrote me and wouldn't leave me alone until I helped. And this is what happened because of this. And so that's just, you know, a big way of saying thank you to people. But for both of you, you know, there's probably a lot of things that you've been busy in your life surviving. And so now, you know, there's an opportunity to share your experiences and sharing your heart and sharing your love. And that's so inspirational. So you seem, you both have really good, solid support systems, but always know that you're heroes. You're heroes to me, to Adriana, when we go to schools and hospitals and orphanages and shelters, every single child is like how you greet them. Samina, when you have patients, it's like, can I offer my light? Whatever I have in me, I would like to give to you. And that's how we do it. But when we have hard days, when I have hard days, when it's tough on the fundraising scale or whatever it is, I think of you. I think of the kids. I think of what you've done and how you've persevered and just how you present yourself each day. And you have every reason to complain and be bitter and be rude and to be harsh and to be whatever it is. And you choose this ray of light in the sunshine. And so that's the really cool thing. We're fortunate. A lot of companies around the country knew that Little Star stayed open every single day. And they would send us their masks because they couldn't use them. They were shut down. The WTA was one of those. There's a lot of companies. And so I contacted Samina and a lot of the doctors and nurses and other kids that have graduated and gone into alumni, kids that have gone into medicine, and said, how is it with your masks and your equipment? And Samina, you were reusing masks. These people around the country were reusing masks, and you were showing up every day for your patients every day. And so we started sending all these boxes out that were donated to us, and we got to give them out. And we're not selling anything, but like, grab your own sunshine and, borrow some of theirs, because life can be pretty special if you just look inside yourself and then listen to their stories too. We all have that special stories. What would be your words of wisdom that you would like to send out?
I mean, attitude of gratitude is really the way to go. I can't explain it enough. Starting your day with gratitude and ending it with gratitude will, no matter what it is, like having a roof or being able to sleep in a bed or having running water, or the fact that you got to have a tough day and get to wake up the next morning and take it on again. So my mantra is attitude of gratitude, truthfully. And that's kind of where I like to let the tide roll, really.
All right. Well, we're going to go with that, and know that you're going to be reaching out to your patients today and evermore. And we wish you, well, and send love and blessings and prayers, certainly, for all. We continue those prayers for you and your family every single day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Samina. This was amazing. So wonderful
Thank you,
to
guys.
meet you.
Oh, yes. It's such a pleasure. I can't thank you enough. Like, I'm so honored and so appreciative. And I hope that I did you proud.